Hello and welcome. I'm sure some of you are surprised to hear an actual human voice on a history video, with how many AI generated history channels have been popping up lately. Even as a history enjoyer myself, hearing AI talk about it can be a bit irritating. So today I want to do something a little different, walk out of my comfort zone. So we're gonna be talking about the 4th Fallschirmjäger Division, a unique half German, half Italian airborne division that fought during the Italian campaign. The 4th Fallschirmjäger Division was formed in November of 1943, following Italy's surrender to the Allies and Germany's subsequent occupation of much of the country. Unlike the earlier Fallschirmjäger divisions, this unit was created under difficult circumstances. Germany was on the defensive, manpower was limited, and the Italian theater was becoming increasingly critical. As a result, the division was formed using a mix of German and Italian troops. Its core was made up of elements of the 2nd Fallschirmjäger Division, alongside personnel from the 12th Italian Regiment and the 148th Infantry Regiment. This made the 4th Fallschirmjäger Division unusual, not only in composition, but in its role, as it would rarely operate as a traditional airborne force. The division was assigned to the 1st Fallschirm Corps, which was responsible for some of the heaviest fighting in Italy. It was commanded under Henrik Tenner. I'm going to butcher a lot of these names, so you just have to bear with me. Henrik Tenner was a highly experienced German officer. He had served during the Spanish Civil War, where he gained experience, earned several decorations while working as an adjutant, essentially an administrative and operational assistant to senior commanders. By the early years of World War II, Tenner was serving as a staff officer in the German army. He later became chief operations for the 6th Army Corps, taking part in major operations, including Germany's airborne invasion of Crete in 1941. By the time he assumed command of the 4th, Tenner was a seasoned officer, but he was now leading a division formed under increasingly unfavorable conditions. The division first saw major combat in 1944 during the Allied landings at Anzio. Rather than being used in airborne assaults, the 4th Division was primarily tasked with defensive operations. These included securing key roads, holding rearguard positions, and attempting to slow down the Allied advance. The fighting at Anzio was intense. Although the German forces managed to contain the beachhead for months, they were ultimately forced to withdraw. During the retreat, the 4th Division fought a series of delaying actions as the Allied forces pushed north towards Rome. Notably, the division was among the last German units to withdraw from Rome, conducting rearguard actions to cover the retreat of other forces. After Rome fell in 1944, the 4th Division continued fighting in northern Italy. Like many German units at this stage of the war, it was almost consistently under strength and increasingly relied on defensive tactics. Think guerrilla warfare, anti-tank ambushes, and other stuff. The division functioned largely as an elite infantry rather than a true airborne unit. The mountainous terrain of Italy and the strategic situation made airborne operations impractical, and the Fallschirmjäger increasingly served as a shock troop in defensive battles. For most of its existence, the division remained on the defensive, reflecting the overall tide of the war in Italy as German forces were steadily pushed northward. As the war in Italy dragged into the summer of 1944, the Allies continued pushing northward. After the fall of Rome, the German command responded by building a last massive defensive system across the spine of the Alpines known as the Gothic Line. It stretched over 300 kilometers across Italy, from the Massa on the Tyrrhenian coast to the Arctic. It was designed to slow down the Allied advance towards Po Valley. Unlike earlier phases of the war, where German airborne units had been used in surprise drops, by late 1945, the fighting in Italy was almost exclusively ground combat. The 4th Fallschirmjäger Division, already heavily worn down from continuous defensive actions, took up positions along parts of the line as it was pushed back from Anzio and Rome. In August and September of 1944, the Allies launched Operation Olive, the main offensive aimed at breaching the Gothic Line. After weeks of grinding combat, including battles around Remy and the Northern Alpines, Allied forces succeeded in breaking through sections of the line, forcing German troops to withdraw in order and delaying but not stopping the advance. Fighting around the Gothic line continued well into the winter, with pockets of resistance and counterattacks even as the front shifted. In early 1945, a major Allied offensive known as Operation Incor further shattered German forces, opening the way into Po Valley and signaling the collapse of the last major German positions in Italy. By May 1945, all the German forces in Italy, including what was left of the 4th Fallschirmjäger Division, have been either surrendered or disbanded as the war in Europe came to an end. This marked the ending of a long, hard-fought campaign in Italy. The final chapter, the combat history of a division that have been formed under extraordinary circumstances, only to spend most of its existence fighting a retreat across the Italian peninsula. In my overall opinion, this division clearly shows how desperate both the German and the Italian situation had become. An airborne division that never carried out a single airborne operation and rarely took part in any true offensive action at all. When I read their history, I can't help but feel a sense of pity. While elements of the division were involved in atrocities, as many units in the theater were, when I take a step back and look at the formation as a whole, what stands out to me is desperation rather than purpose. They spent their entire existence fighting defensively, pushed back again and again across Italy. This patchwork formation, made up of elements from other division forces from two different nations, was clearly a product of necessity rather than planning. Even under the command of an experienced and capable officer, there's only so much they can do. And this ends my recap of the 4th Fallschirmjäger Division. I hope this was entertaining, at least to a certain degree. I hope you can turn it on and just listen to it in the background. I'll be making more, hopefully, so if you want to see more, maybe leave a comment, like and subscribe. How about this? If I can get 10 likes on this video, the next video will be out by Friday of this week. But let's see if we can hit 10 likes on something that I'm just gonna throw out there.